Hello Internet, this is LordMaddog, and today we are going to continue on in our tutorials for my SOULSLIKE project. And today we're going to talk about adding weapons. First things we're going to need to do is we're going to have a static mesh, and we're going to have a texture. We're going to go over each. As I've talked about the last episode, how to bringing in your static mesh and setting it up and everything. As you see here, I've already gone ahead and I've already resized our static mesh to what we want. We are going to compare it to the greatsword. It's always good to have an item that you want to compare it to, kind of compare your item to when you want to be bringing in a new weapon or item or something along that line. You kind of want to find something about the size or general ideal of what you want to bring it in to keep things kind of uniform and static. Not static, uniform, just uniform. Okay, so I've already done that. Another thing I didn't talk about last time because I wasn't using my standard texture. This is my master material. My master material has quite a few options, but the only ones you really will probably need to know about right now, you can mess around with the other ones, is arm, base color, and normal. These are the only ones we're going to be messing with right now. Now, arm means ambient, occlusion, metallic, and in normal, not normal intensity, roughness right here, roughness intensity. Okay, so this is starts with ambient, occlusion, roughness, and metallic. And how I did that is I have a packing thing. I have packed all of my channels. So my ambient occlusion went in here, my roughness goes in here, and my metallic goes into here. You can get any type of pack. There's tons of different packing materials out there. You can look it up on how to talk about it online. So that's what I did. I got my arm, I got my base, I got my normal materials all added in here, and then as I said, my master material can do a lot of things like animate. I can add an animated texture, as you see here. Now that my spear has an animation flowing over it, but it also changes because my animation texture is not that great for that one. That's just my base one. And I have an emissive, so you can make the texture glow and whatnot, and then you'll see it down over here, my emissive texture and whatnot. But we're not talking about that today because my master material will probably change where I'm not sure really much. Probably not actually, because I'm actually pretty much done with this, but I mean, when I go to make my own game, I'll probably be changing the master material a good bit. But anyway, you can make your own master material, use my material. One thing when you're using materials is that having a base material and having everything else as a material instance is a very good idea because you reduce draw calls. Just remember that when adding materials. Okay, so now that we've got my material, my spear all set up, my static mesh all set up, we want to make sure of one thing. We want to make sure it has a good simple collision. This one came in with its own collision, but I found that was falling through the world, so I just added another box collision on top of it, and now it doesn't seem to fall through the world as much. So we don't need the collision anymore. Now, the next thing we need to talk about when setting up a weapon one is sockets. There are 3 sockets for every weapon. You must have these. You must add them, and I'm going to talk about exactly what these do. Okay, so weapon end. This is no weapon. Let's go start with weapon start. Weapon start is where the trace will start, and so when you're doing an attack, we're not going to hit an enemy with the actual collision of the weapon. We are actually doing a sphere trace. So this is where the sphere trace starts. And on this weapon, I have it at the very end of the hilt because some animations for spheres, I don't have any ones, but some animations for your spear will have you hitting them with the butt of the weapon. So as you see here, I have the weapon end at the very end of this. For my other weapon, like the greatsword, because none of my animations for the greatsword has them hitting in, I will have it right here at the close to the handle or in the hand. I was finding that with this weapon, sometimes I was having, because the handle is down a little bit farther, that when using one-handed weapons, that sometimes it would hit them right about here, and somehow it wouldn't count down. So I brought it down just a little bit. And so now the next thing we're going to talk about is the weapon end. Weapon end is going to pretty much always be at the very tip of your weapon, wherever you want the end of the weapon possibility to damage. So the weapon end is where the sphere trace will end. So you have a sphere trace start from the weapon beginning, all the weapon end. It doesn't matter if it goes over your character because it automatically does not hit the character line traces. This is if hit character, ignore. Okay. Basically, ignore characters for line trace. So any enemy that's hit in this area with the weapon will be done damage to it. Now the other thing, the last socket is weapon center. Weapon center. This dictates where your trail and your enchantment effects will take effect. Basically, this only affects graphics, good looking stuff. So in this case, we want our trail to pretty much start right here and end up here and about here. For our weapon, our trail. So when we're swinging the weapon, we don't want just the very tip of it to kind of line to send a trail, because it didn't. I tried that; it didn't look too good. So I wanted to have a little bit bigger of a weapon trail, and my enchantment will be like that. So in here, the great sword, you see here, the weapon trail is right here and in the very middle of the blade. And so that'll be according to wherever your weapon was. You want it your when we get done, I'll show you the line, the weapon trail and the weapon enchantment effect. With that done, we need to do one more thing before we actually start to create the weapon, because this is a spear and it will not work with any of the animations I currently have set up. And I did that on purpose because I want to show you that I want to go through all the steps of doing this. So we want to go to blueprints, we want to go enums, we want to go combat type, combat type. And we're going to add two new combat types, because we're going to use a one-handed and two-handed version of its one. So we need two. We're going to go light, spear. Oh, I had an extra. I had the key there. And heavy spear. These are my two new combat types, and we'll be using this later on a lot. So now with that done, we're going to go ahead and go back to my blueprint. We're going to go actors, we're going to go weapon, and we're going to try to find a weapon that's pretty much like what we're doing. In this case, we don't have any spears already added to the game, so we're going to just try to find a weapon that is kind of like it, decent in size, and is mounted on our back to make things easier on ourselves. In this case, we're going to go ahead and use the great sword, because that's I've already decided to do. Decided that it's a pretty good match. So we're going to go ahead and duplicate that. We're going to go and call this copy spear. Copy. There we are, copy. Oh, I need to actually add spear. Where'd that go? My bad. Spear. Copy spear. Here we are. We're going to open up the copy spear. We're going to open the full blueprint. Sometimes it does that. For some reason, it doesn't want to open the whole full one. We're going to viewport. First things we're going to change our drop mesh and our item static mesh to our copy spear. Copy. Here we are. We'll prepare our shaders here real quick. It'll take a few seconds to do that. It takes a little bit longer because I am recording, but it shouldn't catch or anything. Come on. You can do it. And there we go. Now, we also want to reset its material to the right one. Drop mesh, we want to also copy spear. There we are. Now those are both set. So talk about exactly what each one is. Drop mesh is what you'll see on the ground. So if you want to have your weapon kind of like collapsed or in a different case or something, that's fine. You can change the static mesh when it's dropped on the ground. The item static mesh is the actual one that will be displayed when you're in your hands. So with that said, we're going to come back to the very top, and we're going to start talking about the settings. Now, damage multiplier and base multiplier, these are now set in the item settings. These are not set here. So changing these things will not change a thing to the weapon that's actually set in the item info. So we're going to close the default. Well, this is where we're going to first need to change our things. One-handed weapon combat type. We're going to light spear, because we just made that. You can't type it in there. Light spear. And then the two-handed weapon, we're going to go heavy spear. All right. The sword length. This dictates how big your it's only graphical. It'll dictate how big your trail, the size of your trail vertically. vertically. Yeah, vertically. This also sword length does no longer do anything. It is now actually handled inside the item info, so we don't actually need to change that, but we do need to change these. So hand socket name. This is the socket that you will be where the weapon is when it's in your right hand. I should have actually changed the name of that, but hand socket. This, we're actually going to need to make a new one because instead of weapon socket won't work because all my animations are a bit different. Well, we're going to leave it that for now. And then the two-handed socket is also what we're going to need change. If this is when you have your two-hand, change it into two-handed. We're going to need to make a new socket for this one as well. So with that, these are the only two things that we need to change, but I'm going to go over each one. Point vector, float vector is going to, every single one of your NPCs, your character will need to have a point vector when they're using, if they're going to use magic and a weapon at the same time, this is where the weapon will float off to. So if I am going to use a fireball spell and I currently have this weapon equipped, when I cast that spell, the weapon will float off to where the point vector is at, off the side of your float socket. Your float socket should be always directly on your pelvis in your skeleton. We'll talk about when we actually add another character. These left-hand socket and right-hand sockets, these are not actually used at the moment. These were part of the floating. These don't need it. These will need to be on your character for magic effects. So these are what makes your hands glow. So you'll need these right where your palm is at on every single one of your skeletons. But since we're not going to, well, we are using magic. We'll have been using magic, but these are going to always be my default because the magic, I'm not going to be changing where the magic spawns when I'm using magic on these, because the weapon itself doesn't actually use magic. Okay, you can actually have a magic weapon, so you can change where that's at. Two-handed, I've already gone over that. Offhand socket attachment. So this is where the weapon is rested when you have it not equipped. And offhand, this is offhand, the offhand where it's at. Now the right hand version is actually been moved into the item info. Okay, now can block. This says if this weapon can block or not. This weapon can do. And offhanded, you don't want to mess with that. That's actually handled internally. Now sounds. This is when you're swinging a weapon and when it hits and when it doesn't hit. You're going to want to change these according to whatever you want. Right now, I'm not going to mess with them. So this one, hit flats, hit wet. It's pretty self-explanatory. So if I was going to really be adding this spear to it, I probably want to get more of a hollow ring, and I would want to go through each one of these and set them up to it has a different sound effect for each one of these when it hits. Now that done, we don't need to mess with any of these here. We don't, because we're not using any type of magic. Now animations we're going to talk about in a bit. We're not going to mess with those at the moment either. So with that done, we don't need. These are your action multipliers. I think you're probably going to want to leave these mostly alone, but I'll tell you what they do. So for every animation action that you have, you're going to have a corresponding animation action. Animations, here we are. So every animation, so like light attack montages or your dodge montages, dodge montages. Now, actually, I don't think, is it used? Yeah, it's used, but only if you have it actually set. You don't have to have it set. This can actually allow you to change how your dodges work, which may change in time because, well, in my game. So I guess I'm pretty much, like I keep on saying, I'm pretty much done with this. So each one of these attack actions, montages, whatnot, will also have a corresponding action cost. So right here, we see here, character attack, air attack. It will do 120% damage. So one is 100%. Poise damage 120 foot poise. Character action attack, charge attack, a dash attack, death blow. Each one of these attacks, as I was saying, heavy attack, and you're just going to want to have the action and fill them out according to how many actions and animations you have. Most of them, you'll just look over it and decide, match them up. It might take a little bit of brain power to figure out exactly what you want for each one, but it's each one will be building up your own system. Now, when we finally get down here, Building Smasher allows it to do extra damage or less damage to buildings. If we don't have Building Smasher checked, it will do less damage. It'll only do 75% damage to buildings, such as or mines or trees or anything that you actually have that you can break apart and use for building. So like if I had a pickaxe or like a wood axe, this would be true. But since this is a spear, that's not true for us. So we're going to go ahead and change the name. We're finally down to item info. Copy high spear. We're going to change this. A spear with a light weight. That's spelled weight wrong. I actually don't know how to spell weight. I before E, except for after E. Whatever. I'll fix that later. Lightweight tip, sharp tip. There we are. It can be used, obviously. Equip. This is the text when you're going to use it. You're going to equip it. That's what you want. It cannot be stacked. We don't want it to be stacked. I've already created the icon. I showed how to do that before. Where is it at? There it is. Self-reference, you want to make sure this is, sometimes it won't, but you want to make sure it always is referring back to this blueprint itself. It should auto set itself to refer. Sometimes it won't, to make sure it's always referring back to itself. Okay, the weight of the weapon, 3 pounds seems about right. Value 100, that's fine. Now this is the actual portion of where it does the damage. So in this case, I want this to do 100% melee damage and only 1.5 poise damage, because it's a very light, quick way weapon. All of its attacks are going to be kind of jabs or thrust and whatever, and they're not going to be able to knock the target off balance as much. The sword length, I think, is about 120 from what I was doing in my testing. This sets the trail, and I did this because I was one of my blueprints. I was working with changing the size of the weapon at real time, so I can modify with one of my skills. I can modify the item static mesh size, the length in transformation. No. What is it? Scale. Yes, scale. I can modify the scale. Anyway, so this, and then I decided I also need to be able to change the sword length on at runtime as well. So instead of having it back there, I have it now here. So sword length is 120. Now we don't need to mess with any of these scales. We are going to leave it as an ordinary. Our rarity is always just going to be default ordinary. Oh, there is a thing we do need to have. Is there? No, that's not here. Okay. Down here, this is the amount. This is our attached socket. This is the socket where this had actually been moved up. But anyway, it's fine. It should have been back up here, but it's okay. So this is where it's going to, because it's a right-handed, where it's going to stand. I'm sorry, I have something in my throat. Like where it's going to, when you don't have it equipped, where it's going to be. So if I wanted to have it on my hip, I'll put my hip socket right into where this is the great sword back socket. I could make a new socket and put it here, but this is, in my testing, this works pretty good. It's not perfect, but it's because I'm not going to end up keeping this anyway when I make my game. It's pretty good. Okay, now that is pretty much all of these, except for one more thing we need to do is right here, the default buff. This needs to be the same as your item buff up here. Well, it probably should be the same. It doesn't have to be the same, but to make sense, it should be as the same as your item info. Where's that at? I just went way past that. Item. Oh, you know when I was going over item info. Yeah, item info. Wait here. This would be the same as your right there. This is the only thing you have to change in the buff section. And after that, I think that's pretty much everything is done. We don't need to change any more of these things. Now, with that done, this is actually a viable weapon. It's actually kind of usable, except for right now, if I were to do this, because these are not set up, it would T-pose me, which is I want to go ahead and just go for. We're going to go back to light sword and a great sword, because we're going to use it as a sword at the moment, and then we'll set up the animations and talk about how to do that. So we're going to drag our new weapon in just so we can see it in action. And when we drag it in this way, I will have a specific tutorial how to add things rightly so they don't constantly spawn every time your character is in play. But right now, we're going to just go ahead and quickly change the manual settings on this thing. We don't need that to dropped right here. That there. Like I said, there is a lot of stuff in this game, this thing, so it takes a good bit to have everything all set up, because I wanted to have everything have it enough. Yeah, I picked it up. Good. I hit it and it looked like it went flying off. There we are. See here. I think the trail is actually a little bit too big. Yeah, it looks like the trail is too big. So we're going to need a trail. It goes up. It goes a little bit over the height wise of where I think it should. Yeah, it definitely goes out too far. We'll need to change the size of the weapon down a little bit more. Let's check out enchantment and see if that's where we on the enchantment. Yeah, the enchantment goes a bit too big as well, I think. Yep, it's definitely sword length is a little bit too big. So we're going to change in here. Other than that, it looks like everything is pretty good. So sword length, we want to come back to item info. Have all these stupid things open. Item info, sword length. Let's try 100 and see where that's at, and try that again. Thought I tested it and the 120 was good. Maybe it's. I tried it in another project to make sure everything was working perfectly. But I tried to have that other project open while I was messing with this, and it just constantly crashed everything because I just can't record and do everything at the same time. That's still a little bit too long. Yeah, definitely still too long. Let's change it down to, try 80. This is the only kind of like the guesswork you have to do when adding weapons. Try to make sure that the trail is right where you want it to be, and you just gotta test it. There's no other weird way. I tried to come up with another way of doing it, but you just gotta try to test it. Still slightly too big, I think. Let's try out the. Huh. It's definitely shorter, but it's still slightly over the length. I thought this was kind of a really long. Well, I guess not, because I have it already set up. Because I have here. You would probably try to figure out. Oh, that would probably work if you were to use the math from your weapon center and divide it in half. Yeah, if you divide where it's at, so relatively compared to this 180, divide 120 minus 80, and then divide that, the value you get out in half, would probably enable you to do it pretty good to figure out exactly where you want it every time. But let's go with 70. Let's try 70. I could also move down the enchanting, the weapon center too. That would also work for this in this case. Still slightly over, just ever so slightly. So in that case, we're gonna just, like I said, move down my weapons center just slightly down. That should probably be enough. That looks pretty close to it. Yep, I can see the weapons trail. That's pretty good. Now we're going to talk about actually making this into a spear and changing the spear weapons and everything. So we're going to go ahead and come back to here. We're going to change the equip type to light spear, and for two-handed, heavy spear. Now, with that done, we need to actually go into your character's the blueprint, not blueprint, animation blueprint. Yes, that's where I'm going to go into our character animation blueprint. In this case, I'm going to go into my player, my BPP player. I'm going to go into my old man ABP. And we're going to go anime graph here. Back to anime graph. This will show my anime graph. We will need to right click on this one. We'll need to add a light spear and a heavy spear. And then we'll need to make the corresponding states. So I have already set them up. We will talk about that because it takes too long to set them up on screen, but I will go over them real quick when we do this. So we have a spear. So we're going to talk about locomotion first. This is not going to be absolutely perfect, but this is my light spear locomotion. As you see here, this will be your idle, your idle for your weapon. This will be your walk. You will need to make a lean animation, right? Which is really easy to do. I will show you how. Once you have your walk animation, we'll go ahead and open that. See, and this is the animation for a walk, his spear animation for walking. And the leaning is just for walking. You just take this animation, you grab its pelvis. You start back here at the very beginning. You grab its pelvis, you turn it 5 degrees like that, and you hit S. And that will be the end. That'll be your left lean. And then if you turn it -5 degrees, that'll be your right. And you save it out. And that's what your animation for walking and moving is. I will actually open up where's my walk? Right here, left lean. And I'll show you, that's exactly what I did there. That's actually maybe, I had tilted maybe 10. So it just gives a little bit of a tilt when you're turning. We'll come back up to my blend space and talking more about the blend space. So as you can see here, that is the walking animation and the leaning. All right, now your running will be, you'll need a running animation, and you'll need to do a running animation for that. You will need to do 15 degrees to the right and 15 degrees to the left. That'll make it look a lot better when you're running. Okay, and then you just have a sprint. And for me, I just kind of used the sprint. I had the animations I got for this came from a free pack on Fab Market. They didn't, anything you get for free are going to be kind of mediocre quality. And I mean, they're not bad, they're just not great. So I just use my default running and whatnot. When I go to actually do this, I will need to buy animations myself and edit them. I have my eyes on some $40 animations, but obviously because this is free, I cannot have this in. It has to be completely, totally copyright free. Everything in this pack is copyright free. So I can't be adding ones I buy into the system. I'm sorry. It's just, I'll get myself in deep doo-doo. So everything in here, the animations are going to all be subpar because I am not an animator. And most of the animations I get my hands on aren't that great either. So this is your animation, your blend space. We will need to create the blend space for up here. We're just going to go ahead and duplicate this. We're going to call this light spear. And we're going to replace this with light spear. We're going back over here. Spear, blend space, ground speed. There we go. That's done. let's go ahead and actually set up the animations for the attacks. I've only got 4 attacks for the light attack, and here they are. These are my light ones. Like I said, they're not the best. I wish I had a lot better animations, but I don't. So this is what we're going to use. Now, once you have the animations you want, we're going to go ahead and we're going to right click on this and we're going to create an anime montage. All right. I've already done that. In my case, I want to, cancel. I want my right-handed jib to be my first light-handed attack spear. I've already set this up because I said it takes too long to do it otherwise. You're going to want to open these up and look at each one. I'm going to describe what each one of these things does, and then you have to add them yourself when you add your own. So dodge. This allows the character at the beginning of the animation to turn towards the place where you're aiming. If you do not have this, if the character is not perfectly lined up with the camera, he'll just be he'll be throwing his weapon off in that direction. And you only want this at the very beginning because you don't want the character or the NPC to be able to turn while they're attacking. That's just absolute. I've seen some of that with some games. They'll allow the enemy. You can't really dodge them because the enemy will be able to turn the entire time they're attacking. It's like, well, I can't dodge that because he just comes down on top of you. Now, animation motion warp. This is animation motion warp. This is part of the plugin. This will warp your target to location. One sec. Will warp your target to the current point over the course of however long this is. The longer this is, the longer it will take to get to that location. Okay. But that animation target warping has to have a location, and this is the update location for that. So basically what this does is it gets the target's location. When you first attack, it'll get the target where you're trying to hit. Let's say you're trying to hit an NPC. It only works on NPCs. It does not work on anything else at the moment. And no, it never will, because, if you're just hitting environment, I didn't want to have that. Okay, so this will get the NPC target location, and it'll update that the entire time the motion warp is active. That way, if the character moves a little bit, you're still kind of going in its general direction. And also that when we are using it, when we use it, exactly how that works. Usually you only want this at the first one, your first attack. You can put it on all of your attacks. And if your attacks don't have kind of like a step forward, a forward motion with it, you probably will kind of want to do that, because otherwise the combat will feel kind of like you're just standing there swinging your weapon and not really like you're moving. If you want to give you some motion, you should get animations that have actual motion moving forward. You want all your animations to have some type of movement forward, but this, if you do not have an animation that moves forward, this can simulate a movement forward or a movement towards the target. So this will move your character towards the target, and this one will actually activate. This is where the actual point where the weapon's actually starting to do damage. So here, this actually probably needs to come out here. So the right now I have the bow attached instead of the spear, but that's fine. We will need to be messing with my spear. Actually, you know what? I should probably do that, but we will need to be doing that anyway. So spear. Yeah, let's go ahead and actually jump to that. Well, let's finish talking about this first. Anyway, so this activates the weapon. So this is where the points of where it will do damage. We need to bring this back some. Oh, I know what's going on because I had this slowed down in my testing. So we want to have this at 170.7 speed because it's a tad bit too fast. Okay, so that's why, yep, that's just about right there. Okay, so anytime during this attack, if the player hits the attack button again, it'll queue up the next attack chain. The moment this ends, that they can no longer queue up the next attack, and they'll be locked into this animation unless they're hit or roll out of it. And until you hit the reset attack. So the reset attack allows you to do other things like attack again or block or anything like that. It allows you to do other things. This only during this time can you queue up another attack. So if you hit attack during like right here or anytime during this time, it'll automatically do the next chain of attack. So in that case, it'll do L2, L attack, light attack 2. So, and this will reset it. You can have a longer cooldown time if you want, but I don't really like that because I didn't really like any of the animation. You don't need to go all the way back to your starting pose. It wasn't necessary, so I have it reset right there. So that's how you do it. Each one of these, you will need to set up that setting. As you see here, I've only have the animation warp on the first one, and I do not think I have the animation warp on any of these other ones here. Okay, so I have done that I have set up these animations for both the light sphere attack and the heavy attack. So I have these all set up, but before we go, well, we're going to go ahead and add them. So, and then I'll show you what else we have to do after that. So we're going to come down into our animations. We're going to go, my light attack montages. Let's go ahead and grab them real quick. Light attack montages, 1, 2, 3. And we're going to delete the ones that are there and drag our ones on there. Light attack montages. So we'll make sure they're in line. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, they're all right in line. Then we need to go down here to find our two-handed attack, light attack montages. Right here are two-handed. So we're going to come in the heavy attack. We're going to delete these and bring these into here. Two-handed light attack montages. Now, if you don't have them, if you don't have, like, this one doesn't have any heavy, oops, why didn't that work? What happened? Oh, I have to bring it over here. My bad. There we are, light attack. Like, this one doesn't have any two-handed heavy attack montages. It'll just use the one-handed heavy attack montages. Okay. That said, we are done with everything inside of this. But if we were to go ahead and pick this up, pick that up. Like I said, it could fall through let me work on the collision on it. It can fall through the world. There you are. Now when we equip it, I did not set this up inside the old man yet. Light spear. Well, that's actually is set up. Didn't I not connect it? No, I did connect it. I also have to set up a heavy spear too. So let's quickly do that as well. So there's a light spear one, and we will need to duplicate this, and we need to actually spell that correctly. We have the P large. I don't want that. We're going to go heavy spear attack. And we will need to set up the blend space for this as well. Heavy spear blend space. There we are. Now let's go ahead and pick this up. And we will have just one problem left to fix after this, because we did not create a proper socket for this. Right now we're still using the greatsword socket, so we'll see that my weapon is not in the right position. So when I swing the weapon, the greatsword, it uses the greatsword socket instead of the spear socket. So that is everything is unaligned. So we now need to go ahead and create a spear socket in my character. Since we are using the old man, we will need to use the skeleton we are currently using. So we're going to come over here. We're going to find his right hand. We're going to go ahead, right hand, not right hand, okay. We're going to go down here. We're going to add a socket. We're going to add this socket light spear. We're going to add another socket. Add socket. We're going to call it heavy spear. All right, now we're going to go ahead and just completely remove all attached objects. We're going to add for the light spear, we're going to right now add our copy spear. We're going to go up here and we're going to do a preview animation for light jab. Jab mid. Where's light jab mid? I might have to actually type it in. Jab. Not sab, jab. There we are. One-handed right here. Yes. This is it. We want to stop playing. Here we go. Come to right about there, and we're going to now move the light spear to where it looks good, where we're going to want it to look like. So we're probably going to want this at like a 70-degree angle. Oh yeah, we'll also have to change this inside the Kopai spear blueprint as well. So we're gonna just put that in there. This spear actually needs to be a little bit bigger round wise to fill up the hand. But that looks pretty good. We might want to bring this a little bit forward so it's actually resting right there in the palm. Let's see, is it pointing in the direction we want? It's pretty much right, I think. Yeah, I think that's good. Let's go ahead and change the location for its palm. So hand socket, this is your right hand weapon socket. We're going to change it to what we just added. We have to go with the exact name with all sockets. When you do sockets, you always have to do the exact name. Hit the wrong thing there. Weapon socket. Boom. So there's our light spear. Let's go ahead and test that out for our light spear. Let's go ahead and having bad textures is annoying the heck out of me. I know it's better while recording, but there we go. Grab the spear. Equip it. So that looks pretty good where he's holding it. It's not quite right. Needs to come up a little bit for this character. A little bit up, and let's see about attack. Yep, okay. That's pretty good. Heavy attack here. All right, let's heavy attack that one. Run attack. Heavy attack. Wait, that's running attack there. There it is. So, yep, that's pretty good, except for it needs to come up. So we're going to go ahead and bring it up a little. Let's bring it up right up to the thumb. And then test that. As I said, the animations I have are not that great. I mean, but they're serviceable. They will be usable for what we're doing at the moment. So there we are. His fingers are on it right. His thumb is right there. Kind of might need to come up just a tad bit more and closer to the hand. Burn that. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Now we need to set up the two-handed version of it as well. I do kind of like this stance. It's like, I am king. He's got the spear hand in there. Okay. Like something you expect Lu Bu to do. Or Gon. No, Gon Yu. That's too arrogant for a Gon Yu. There we go. Test that again. There we are. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Might need to refine the animation itself to actually wrap around it a little bit more. Okay. That's pretty good. Yeah, you need to refine the animation itself to have the fingers actually grab around it a little bit more. But other than that, that's really good. Let's come back over here. Let's set it up for the heavy spear. So we're going to remove all cheer, and we're going to add a preview copy spear. We're going to go preview animation to what was our light attack, our heavy attack spear one. Heavy attack spear is O2 jab. There it is. O2 jab. We're going to bring it out to, no, that's not jab. That's jab high. I want the one jab mid for testing. There we are. No, wait, where's it? Oh, wow. That's a very quick attack. Right there at 6 is fully extended. Let's bring the heavy spear down to where it's in his hand. And bring it around to it's right in his palm. That looks about right, except for we might want to slightly, nope, we're going to have to turn off snapping here. Slightly bring it up. There we go. There. Let's go ahead and come back to my Koopy spear, and we're going to change my two-handed socket to my heavy one, the one I just set up. Copy, Koopy, great hand sword, 2-socket. There we want the heavy spear, two-handed socket there. Now this is not setting up the left hand. The left hand, you just basically got to go through the same settings as we're doing right now, setting up for the left-hand weapon attack, left-hand weapon. But I don't have any actual animations for the left-hand weapon, so it'll look really funky. You probably need to have kind of like a setting that will not allow some weapons to be equipped in the left hand unless you actually want to go through setting up for each one. Let's go ahead and equip two-handed. Okay, so that is something wrong there. Well, the animations work. Oh, except for the fourth one. What in the world with that fourth one? Okay, well, I do remember testing the fourth one. It's kind of broke just because its animations are not compatible with the current, wasn't properly retargeted. So when we come back into, I'm just going to take off the fourth one. Like, everything has to do with getting good animation. So it really just, that's the reality of it. Let's come back over here. Light attack montage. That fourth one does not work. So we're just going to delete it. But other than that, I do think that the animations themselves are pretty good. What we have to do, though, what we would have to do for my idle, I would have to change it some. It actually needs to come up. So let's see if that actually... Didn't I change? I just got rid of the fourth one. Oh, did I hit the light attack? I got rid of my light attack montage for wrong one. Nope. There we are. That's actually, so we need two-handed light attack. Yeah, this is the one we want to remove because it jumped off in the wrong direction. Okay, let's test. Want to go ahead and I'm not entirely sure. Well, this is all just trial and error at this point. You just want to make sure that your animations look really good and that animations are all set up right. And you can edit the animations themselves to be more aligned with what you want. So let's go ahead and change speed. Here we're going to stab out. Look where that's at. Well, obviously, I do not have that quite right. It needs to come up a good bit. Yeah, up a good bit. And maybe just up and a little bit turned. Actually, you know what? Let's change preview. Preview mesh. we're going to go to Old Man, because Old Man is the one we're actually using. So there, that's what's going on, is the animations are dramatically different for the Old Man and the Man. So you'd have to edit each one animation accordingly to what you are actually using. But I don't think that is something we're going to go too much heavily into at this time. Wow, that is so different. I didn't realize that was so different with each one. I will go ahead and show you how to edit the animation to be a little bit more in line with what you're probably after. So let's go ahead and quickly do that. I will back up my animations before I do it though. Animation, oops, I just jumped out of that. Light spear. My spear, so where's my spear? There we are. Heavy spear locomotion. Let's change my idle to preview mesh, Old Man. Come on. Here we go. There's my Old Man preview mesh. I would also need to set up the sockets for the Old Man, so he would actually have it as well. But here we're going to go ahead and show you how you would edit this. So in this case, the arm is in the wrong position. You would take this, go back to the animation beginning. You would move this. Oh, wrong one. You would move your arm into wherever you need it to be, and then you would hit S. And then as you go on each down, and you want to try to get the head closer, and then closer and closer to you where you want it to actually be. So let's say I want this hand to move. I want its starting position to be a little bit different. Now, when you're doing with looping animations, you got to be careful that you always end where the end of the looping animation will not snap. So if you have this beginning animation, you want to have it keyed exactly the same at the end of your looping animation. So if I have a key here for the right hand, I also want a key here if I'm going to be messing with it anywhere in the middle of your animations. It's trial and error, but it's really easy to do. I'm not good at it because I don't have an eye for it. But some people have spent years building an eye for animations, and I have not. Anyway, that is pretty much everything that comes with adding a weapon. We do have a functioning weapon. Animations are not perfect. They do not look the greatest. I will go spend time off screen fixing some of that animations, making it look a little bit better. But as everything else considered, we have added a spear and animations to the game. Next time, we'll talk about how to get a NPC to use those animations and that weapon. Yeah, that's not bad. I mean, it's not great, but it's not bad. Yep, one hand is a little bit slower, just like a one hand. And you can always go ahead in here and change the speed, how fast you want them to be, or how slow you want them to be. Anyway, I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial. If you have, likes, shares, and comments are always welcome. LordMaddog signing off.